Well, hello. Ooh, I was weirdly resized there. As you can tell from the fact I have not trimmed my beard, I have been so busy, so busy. Honestly, I let me just make sure I've got everything set up properly because I literally was talking to one of my colleagues about 1 minute before I started the broadcast. So it's been a little bit hectic. Hello, David. Hello, Monsef. Hello, who else? Paul and Rick. Of course, Rick is always with us. So is Boyan. Hello, Boyan. We're doing a webinar with Boyan, Microsoft Software, in not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Yes, a Saturday. I'm working on my weekend as it is. We're going to talk about Internet of Things. We're going to publicize that. I haven't done it yet, but we will make sure that gets publicized. We're a little bit busy. Lots going on. Doug in Canada, the salmon capital of the world, Campbell River. Oh, fantastic. Absolutely wonderful stuff. And Malcolm says it's 3 a.m. Good grief. Oh, I did a webinar yesterday for South Korea, and it finished at about 1:30 a.m. my time. So, my eyes are a little bit messed up, and I do have, I'm going to make sure the label doesn't show, but a set of eye drops as well to keep my eyes awake and not looking so bleary. Francis in Wilton, hello there. Cold and sunny. Yeah, it's getting quite warm here. It's like 70 something, so 20 something. JP, hello JP, our super MVP, who's working super hard on the Taurus TLS, which gives you SSL, latest versions of SSL with Indy. So if you're using Indy at all and you're looking for updating your SSL libraries, JP's the man. Is part of the Indy project. You can just Google Taurus TLS, but I'll look for Taurus TLS, but I'll try and put a link up later. But I've mentioned it a few times. We're probably going to do a blog post. Berlin, wonderful, Ralph. Hello there. Julian, says hello, folks. And people in Argentina, long live to Delphi. Yes, long live to Delphi. I've got my Delphi helmet there and various weapons and swords hanging around to show I'm fighting for the language. We're currently number 10. We bounce around between number 10, number 9, and out and about. Paul, hello, Paul. Frequent flyer and frequent emailer from time to time as well. Julian in Brazil, bom dia, my friend in Brazil, and all my friends in Brazil. I love Brazil. It's a lot of fun. I got stuck there. Went to a conference in Brazil, and my plane got delayed for 4 days, and I got stuck in Sao Paulo for 4 days. It was lovely. It was a lovely place, but I think they insulted a woman there. I thought she was homeless. She looked homeless, and I felt quite sorry for her. She's quite old, and it was like a festival time, and I got some food and gave it to her. I couldn't tell what she was saying, but I think she might have been saying, "What do you think I am? I'm just waiting for a bus." I couldn't understand what she was saying. I think she might have been grateful for food, but she might have been telling me, "Hey, I'm not homeless. Why are you giving me sausage, you random weirdo?" It happens. It happens. Doug says, love the global reach of Delphi. Yes, exactly. And this is why I make a point of showing where everybody is coming from, because I want you to know Delphi is in use around the world, in every country. We get Chile and Chicago and, all of the wonderful places that we get people coming in from. And it's very heartening, to see how many people in Norway, for example. It's fantastic. And what else have we got? We already said that. Mexico, hola Javier in Mexico. Saludos, yes, saludos to you too, my friend. Hello from Egypt. Hello there, and I hope you're having fun in Egypt. I love Egypt. I would always love to go and see the pyramids. It's a fascinating civilization. The times of the ancient Egyptians are really completely advanced. I've got a copy of the Book of the Dead, and you're reading words that were written thousands of years ago by people. It's absolutely incredible. Long live to Delphi in Cuba. Cuba, wow, it's fantastic. Pascal was my first language 20 years ago. Too sad it's not supported on Linux. Not true. Johnson, good news. It is supported on Linux. If you use Rad Studio, you can actually create Linux apps and out there. If you're not doing that, then there are other alternatives. Google it around, but Pascal is on every single operating system out there, including mainframes. There is a customer of ours that is running Delphi on a supercomputer in a supercomputer lab in one of the universities. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the university, but wherever you can think of a computer, there is a version of Pascal running. I absolutely guarantee it. Unix, Xenix back in the day, SCO Xenix was very, very big. It's been around for so long. It is on every single operating system. So it is available on Linux. Google it and you'll find it. Almost missed this. Damn daylight savings time. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I have no control of the world's time. I can't help that. We did start earlier, and oh look, my dog's going back to sleep. He's had enough, bless him. That's where is he? Down there. That's my little terrier. Nemo, his name is, because he was a lost dog, and they found him, so they found Nemo. Hello from the German-Danish border. I'll be in Denmark in April. At the end of April, I'm going to the Danish user group for 2 days. DAPUG, I think, is the name of it. I haven't really promoted it because it tends to be well promoted over in Denmark. But if you are Danish and you're interested in going to that user group, I'll be there for 2 days, and you get to hang out with me, and we'll learn some Delphi stuff and talk about it. What else have we got? Sonia says, hello, where are you from? I don't know if he's asking me. I am based in Dallas, in Texas. But as you can tell from my accent, I'm actually originally from the UK. I'm an American citizen. In fact, that is my citizenship certificate up there to prove I'm an American as well. But I'm also very proud to be British American, and I was born in London. Maybe you weren't asking me, but now you got told. Costa Rica. We're going to go through these fairly quickly because we've got a lot joining today. The border of US and Mexico. Yes, fantastic. And of course, Texas used to be part of Mexico once upon a time, so we've got great affinity with Texas and Mexico. And Tex-Mex food is extremely popular. It's my favorite food over here. Delphi people are most welcome in Egypt. My treat. Thank you, Ahmed. It was very nice of you. Hello from Jalapa in Mexico, Jose. Yeah, hopefully that is understandable. I said yes, but that's way too basic. The power of Pascal. No. Jose, you can create GUI apps on Linux. We had a little issue with the guy who wrote FMX Linux and passed away. But actually, that is something that we're in a position of resolving at the moment. I mean, I can't help that people die. It's very unfortunate. In fact, one of our big names from history of Borland, Charlie Calvert, unfortunately passed away just recently as well. So we had 3 very big names in the industry pass away, but one of them, Charlie Calvert, was a legend. We're going to talk more about him another time, but the guy that the 2 people died at the end of 2023 and then middle of August 2024, and that was Eugene, who invented FireMonkey. But FMX Linux was his thing, and you can create GUI apps under Linux. So yeah, not a problem. Way too basic. Yeah, well, there you go. I'm saying that you can do something about it. We can definitely do it. I programmed on SCO Xenix. Yes. See? And Julian says, I started a very big project that we're going to use Delphi and Pascal with its full power. We will use mobile, FireMonkey, and Interbase. Julian, I'm very, very pleased to hear that. If you've got any questions, come by and email me. I'm going to put my email up here. I've got it. I know I've set it up. Where did I put it? Oh, did I remove it by accident? I don't think I did. Okay, well, here it is. If you ever got any questions about Delphi, email me, ian.barker@embarcadero.com. I mean it. People always go, I'm sure I shouldn't email you. I'm like, hey, I'm not anything special. I'm just a normal guy. Email me and we'll talk about Delphi. And if you're stuck on something, I'm not there for technical support. So I'm not going to fix your bugs in your own program. I'm not going to go into too much depth. But if there's a question that I can answer, I will try and answer it for you. So, feel free to email me. I really mean it. And people are always surprised that I email back, usually within the hour and sometimes at the same day or overnight if I've been asleep. But I'm a very, very busy man. I've got 5 webinars I'm doing this week, not just this one. And I've got a lot going on. So, what else have we got? FMX Linux can be installed. Yes, you can. That's correct. Not officially, but if you've got a license for 12.0, then you can still download it. It's not a problem. Lilia Ferreira in Portugal was in Portugal last year. Absolutely beautiful country. Really, I love traveling anyway, and it's great to meet developers around the world. It's one of the things that is good about developer relations, and it's there. Hola desde España. Yes, hello there. What else we've got? Everybody loves Delphi, and that is great. But I must say that I love C++ building. Yes. Now, we are going to be doing some C++ webinars. This current run, 30 for 30, is to celebrate 30 years of Delphi. And so, I rashly said, I'll do 30 webinars. It's been 30 years. Let's do 30 webinars. Starting to wear me down a bit now. This is number 17, and it's starting to really push on me. But we are going to do some C++ builder ones. We've made some very big strides forward in C++ builder in the last 2 releases. And we are going to do some very specific dedicated C++ builder, but many of the webinars you're watching in this 30 for 30 series apply to C++ builder too. In fact, today, all of the stuff you see, apart from the Delphi code, which is not a massive amount, is all compatible with C++ builder. Ian will email you back because he has got time. I've got 0 time. Paul, if you knew how many hours I've worked this week so far, I think I'm way ahead of my schedule. But I like work, luckily. Julian says, thank you very much. Paul says, yeah. Okay, so I've been watching you on this live stream, and your video is very interesting, but I don't really understand all the content. I need to message your inbox so that I understand some things on it. Go ahead and email me. Egwu, is that your name? Please, I really mean it. Feel free to email me. There's my email address. I give it out all the time. I am happy to receive your email. I'm not going to give you technical support, but I will try and point you in the way of some information. I will tell you if something's possible or not, if I know the answer. If I don't know the answer about a question, I will ask one of my colleagues. I work with everybody in the company, from the highest CEO boss downwards, and everybody from marketing and every kind of discipline, shall we say. So please, feel free. Doug says, keep us posted, Javier. Yes, indeed. And Davi says, boa tarde, Castro Alves na Bahia. So yes, Castro Alves, I know you. Great name. Right. So what are we doing today? Well, I'm trying to drink as much coffee as possible because I have had like a few hours sleep. And as I said, and you can see, I've tired the dog out. Bless him. Where is he? Down there. He's gone to sleep. He's had enough. But I've got a webinar today. It's not massively in-depth technical, but it is relatively technical. So without further ado, it's not got a lot of slides. We're really talking about a kind of concepts behind it, and then I'm going to show some demo apps. And actually, David K says, I moved from C++ to Delphi with version 1. Been with it since then, and I won the Computing Magazine Data Security Product of the Year with the product written entirely in Delphi. Hey, David, you didn't work on that file. Was it a firewall app or something like that? Let me know. That's really good to know. Date Computing Magazine. I remember that magazine. I've written articles for it. Back in the day, I used to work in Unix and things like that. And in Computing Magazine, I'm an author and write, blog posts and magazine articles and things. And I've written for Computing Magazine. I've written for most of them. Unix Business Magazine used to be one I used to write for as well. But Security Product of the Year with the product written entirely in Delphi. Why not? I mean, it's a very capable language. That's why it's popular. Okay, so look, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get down to today's subject. Let me just make sure I've got everything set up correctly, which I believe I have. Oh, where's my camera gone? Oh, I guess I don't. That's odd. It was called Key Drive, says David. Oh, very good. Awesome. It's good to know. Right, so let me and Sethi says, hi, sir. You don't need to call me sir. I understand it's a cultural thing, but so let's get some slides up. As ever, because of the way that I have my screen set up and because of the way that PowerPoint works, I'm not necessarily going to see you, okay? If you post questions there. I will do my best to try and answer as I go along, but I apologize if I don't seem to respond right away. I will take all of your questions at the end about the subject. So I've got some slides. We're going to talk about the subject, and then I'm going to do a demo as well, and then we'll do the question and answers at the end. Okay, so 30 for 30 webinars to celebrate 30 years of Delphi. It was released 30 years ago on the 14th of February. I remember the very day that it came out, and it was awesome. I just looked at it and went, that product works the way I think. And today we're going to talk about why you should drop SQLite and use Interbase today. And in fact, really, we're more going to talk about why Interbase is more awesome than SQLite, but also other databases as well. I have to say, a little confession here. My bosses hopefully aren't listening, but well, if they are, they are. I wasn't always a fan of Interbase because I didn't understand it. I always thought, it's just a database system. Why would I care about why would I care about Interbase? Because there's MySQL and SQL Server and Advantage database and many other databases out there. And I thought, well, I don't think I need another one. And then I started to learn about Interbase, and I'm like, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. So let's just have a brief summary for those that are new to the stream. I know lots of you are regular frequent flyers, as I call you, but my name is Ian Barker, and I'm the Embarcadero Developer Advocate. You can email me, please do, at ian.barker@embarcadero.com. If you want to read more about me and what I do in general and what I've done, because I do quite a lot, go to about.me/Ian Barker in your web browser, and it tells you all of the things I do. I do a lot of weird things like voice narration and editing and writing and things like that. As you may have noticed, we started earlier if you are in Europe or looking at the time based on universal time. And that's because the clocks went forward, spring forward in the United States. And we actually base our times on Central Standard Time. And, I actually live in Dallas, which is based on Central Time. And that's just the easiest way for us to get a handle on what it is. Hello, Nigel. I'm glad to see you here from Southern England, my own birthplace. But we will be at 5 p.m. for about 3 weeks, and then we'll be back to 6 p.m. as well when the rest of the world in the Northern Hemisphere jumps forward for spring. Now, do you want to have a fully embedded zero config database? You can use it in your mobile apps and it just works. It literally, you just copy a file up if you're going to have the licensed version, and that's it. You just don't worry about it. You just have to point it in a particular place. You do that in your deployment part of your app, which we'll talk about later. But it's better than SQLite. And why is it better than SQLite? Well, I'll talk about that in a moment. SQLite is designed to be a flat file database. It basically is almost like reading a text file or a spreadsheet or something like that. It's not designed to be a full client server database. And it's got some limitations. You can use SQLite on almost every single device, mobile devices and servers and things like that. But it's really intended to be a kind of local database used for your local storage of data. Let's say caching some information. Let's say if you're Facebook, then you'll probably store some figures, facts and figures of when they last looked at a certain value, and cache some information so you're not pulling lots of data down. You store that in a SQLite database. We can do the same with Interbase, but the difference with Interbase is it can also easily scale to full client server, which you cannot do with SQLite. SQLite will not work that way, and in fact, it will very quickly go down the tubes on you. And not only that, when we're talking about Interbase, did you know you've probably already got a license for it included on your machine for free? And that's actually pretty handy. Now, you might say to yourself, wait a minute, that sounds a bit familiar. Well, yeah, it is familiar because I have done a webinar before on RAD Studio and Interbase. And really, I was talking more there. The slant, shall we say, about that webinar was more about using it on your cell phone, your mobile phone, and the advantages that you would have with Interbase versus SQLite on, say, a mobile device. I actually, in that webinar, if you go to tinyurl.com/best mobile database, if you go there, it will point you into the article with the slides in there and also the replay. Don't do it now, because otherwise you'll go away from this webinar, and that would be annoying. But if you go and look at that article, and you can then look at the replay later if you've not already seen it. It explains a lot about Interbase, and particularly about using it with mobile. And so I'm not going to redo that today because it seems fairly pointless. If you don't think I, during this presentation, talk enough about it and show you enough about mobile, go to this version, this URL that I've got there. Go to that blog post, read all about it, and then watch the replay there. It's quite a long webinar, and we'll explain everything you need to know about getting your Interbase database onto a mobile device. And as we've already had one person say, that they are, let me see who it was. I should have started their comment. Yeah, Julian said he's now going to use Interbase on mobile. So that's great. It's good to know. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Interbase is, in case you don't know. It is a full-featured, high-performance, very small footprint relational database. In some respects, SQLite is as well. It's great, but Interbase goes beyond what SQLite can do. It can do all the things SQLite can do in very similar ways, actually. It's very similar queries. And in fact, if you use FireDAC, you can almost use the same queries and everything. It is embeddable Interbase, so that means that you can put it directly into your software applications. You can, if you're uploading a mobile app, you can have it in the mobile app included in there. If you've got a Mac and you create a Mac app, you can have it embedded in there. And if you've got Windows app, then it could be embedded in there. But that's only part of what you can do. And that's kind of the same as SQLite, because you can embed with FireDAC. You can embed SQLite with a single click like that, and off you go. But Interbase does more than that. It's very, very easy to deploy. It's literally copying the database around. It's not difficult at all. It's got a really tiny footprint, only a few K, and it runs on multiple platforms. Although we are showing Delphi today, you can use it on many other different platforms with other programming languages. I'm going to pretend they don't exist, but let's talk about them for a moment. So there's a Python driver, there's a Java driver, there's a C# driver, there's a C++ driver, and there's a C driver. In fact, if you can name a programming language, there's almost certainly a driver out there. And if you can name an operating system, OS X or Linux or Windows or whatever, you will find that we probably have a driver that will work with that platform. Check the details, because don't rely on me, because I make mistakes, as I don't use a script. I just talk off the top of my head and regurgitate the knowledge in my head out. But yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. One key feature of it that you do not get with other databases, not just SQLite, but other even bigger databases, is the very high security. Okay, and by that you can have some significant advantages for the security. You can have user level security, table level security, row level security. You can do all the things you can do with SQL Server, for example, all the types of authentication, Windows authentication using Active Directory, but you can also use password level security and all the rest of it. But it's very high secure. One thing it does too, you can encrypt the table at rest, which is very, very useful if you are working, say, in Europe, where there are lots of data protection laws that require your data to be encrypted at rest. So someone can't just take that table, copy it to their machine, break the password using a password breaker and get in. No, they can't do that. Because the data is encrypted with very high security at rest as well as in use, it's extremely secure and has a significant advantage. If you want to comply with the data protection laws, then this is the toy for you. It works. You can embed it, you can deploy it, and you can relax. Zero administration. And that means no DBMS or no DB admin or some other person who needs to, massage a server and keep it going. No, it will run and run and run. The machine cuts off and has a power cut or some other horrific thing like a disk crash. Doesn't matter. Once it powers up again, off they go. It will work again. And how do we know that that's actually a fact? How have we tested, or how have we had someone that has tested that viability? Well, there is a copy of Interbase on the Mars rover. So on the planet Mars, there is a copy of Interbase that is running. Yeah, that's pretty much zero admin, because you can't go up there if you're a DBA, even wearing a spacesuit. There's no chance. There's no chance of going to Mars, is there? And going to say, "Oh, wait a minute, I'll just rebuild the tables." No, it won't do any of that. It will look after itself and manage itself. That's what we mean by zero config, zero admin. It's a interesting claim, and it's a fact. It's true. So what else is Interbase then? Well, it can be used in a couple of different scenarios. You can either have it embedded or local, just like SQLite is, or if you want to, you can go from that to a server configuration. So you can have a server running like on a network, or a DB server running somewhere. So it works a bit more like MySQL and SQL Server or Advantage Database. And I'm going to talk about Advantage Database in a minute, because there's some very specific, I was going to say advantages, but that kind of seems a bit redundant. But there's some very specific things about Advantage Database that I want to talk about today as well. But you can go from having it local on your cell phone, your mobile device, and if you suddenly say, well, you know what, we want to scale up so that it is a client server and it's running on some network server, you can do that. But you can start out with that configuration if you want to, and say, well, we'll have a server and we'll connect to it, using our desktop app or whatever app you want to do. And again, it could be Python, it could be PHP, it could be all sorts of other languages. Obviously, I prefer you to use Delphi or C++ Builder, but you've got a driver for it. So it can do both, and you can start out having it local and then scale up to it being a client server database with no changes. It basically is just a question of pointing it at the server and off you go, pointing it back locally and off you go. It's as simple as that. It really is straightforward. But Interbase has an additional secret weapon, and this is a good one. And so you might think, well, why do I care? Why do I care about Interbase? Because I could use MySQL or something like that. Well, Interbase has a little secret weapon that makes life much more useful, shall we say, for things like human resources applications, payroll applications, stock applications, where there's a lot of dynamic changes of cells of data, of fields of data, and rows of data. And that is something that we call change views. And change views are literally like that spot the difference cartoon that you have there. Change views allow you to have a record that's local that you are looking at and processing, and a record that's on the server that someone else has updated, and allows you to become notified about that in a way that is actually award winning. So it's unique. The way that Interbase does it is patented, and it allows you to detect the changes without using things like timestamps, because that's one of the ways that other database systems work. They put a timestamp on a record and then they compare the timestamp and say, oh, is the timestamp changed since I last read this data? Yes, then give me that data again. Another method of replication and change detection is to use a thing called a log table. Now, a log table, what that does is basically, like writing down every action that you ever did in the day. Let's say someone says, what did you do today? What did you do today at work? And you have to go into your diary, a log of all the things. And you say, well, arrived at the office, I made some coffee, then I sat and checked my emails, and I replied to an email to this person and that person, and then I went and updated a spreadsheet. Here's the information I put in the spreadsheet. Here's what was in there already. So this is what I changed. That's a log table, a log of everything you did down to the minutest detail. And that's how many databases like SQL Server and MySQL work in terms of detecting whether there's a difference in a record that you've got locally compared to a record that someone else has updated on the network. Why is that a problem? Well, if I was to get your log of work that you've sat down and written at your desk, got in, read my, had my coffee, read my email, and replied to email. If I went through your detailed list of all the things you'd done, and I wasn't supposed to see some information about you updated a spreadsheet with someone's bank account details, for example, and you said when you went to the bank account details, they were blank, and now you added this bank account number and this sort code or routing code, I would now have information there that really I shouldn't know about. If, for example, the only thing I want to do is make sure that you came in at 8:30 in the morning and you had coffee and took your lunch break at a particular time. And that's what a log table is really like. A log table gives you all the changes that you've made to a database. It will literally tell you every single table, every single row, every single field that's changed. And it's very insecure. Now, the method that Interbase uses is the reason it's got a patent for it, and it's award-winning, won the IOTA award for innovation on this, is that it only tells you, first of all, the things you're allowed to know in terms of the changes, but at field level and specific fields. You can replicate some of this behavior in other databases by using a thing called a trigger. If you don't know what a trigger is, Google it, database trigger. But basically what a database trigger says is, when I update this record, send out or update a log somewhere, or send a message, or run some process to say that something's changed. And that's how a lot of these databases do it. It's very slow, but compared to that type of methodology, because you're only getting with change views, Interbase change views, a very narrow amount of information back saying what has changed, exactly what has changed, and how it has changed, is very, very fast. It whoops the butt, shall we say, of other mechanisms. Is very scalable, because unlike these other systems where they have to have a one-to-many relationship, with Interbase change views, it knows all the devices that connected, where they last were at any one point. So whether I saw records 1 to 10 and another machine saw records 1 to 20, I haven't seen records 10 to 20. So when I get an event coming down from the Interbase server, it will say, oh, by the way, you've not seen records 10 to 20 yet, which were added by another user. So it only sends me records 10 to 20. It doesn't need to tell me anything about records 1 to 10 because they've not changed. It's called a delta. It's a difference between what was there and what is now there. It also is very economic in terms of power that it uses of the computer. It uses almost 0 CPU cycles and 0 disk space because of the method that it uses. It's event driven and is very, very fast. And it's specifically suitable for a multi-destination mobile-centric world. And so this feature has evolved as we've worked on Interbase over the years. And during that evolution of the feature, the world has evolved because, you know, it does. And now something like 60, I had some statistics on Friday last week, that something like 67% of users are using cell phones first for consuming data and for consuming the web. So really, it's arguable that more people are going to use a web app or a mobile app to access some data than a desktop app sitting on a Windows PC or a Macintosh or a Linux. And so this solution, Interbase's solution, is specifically suited for that kind of multi-destination, you know, going to many devices at the same time, mobile-centric world. And that's a kind of useful thing. So how does it work? Well, using these two methods here. And that is you go into your SQL when you're creating your table in the very first place, or you can run it as an additional command later, and you create a thing called a subscription. It uses a reserved word in a SQL script that is literally create subscription, and you give it a name. And as you can see in that example there, create subscription sub. So my subscription is called sub, a bit like submarine, but it's short for subscription. And it's on tab, which is the table name, for a specific row change, because you can change which events you want to subscribe to. So if a row is changed, either by someone inserting, updating, or deleting, the subscription that I'm subscribing to will get a notification to say, hey, Ian, on the table called tab, something changed for a row, and it was either an insert, an update, or a delete. So it's extremely narrowed down. You can very much narrow it down to specific events. Now, how do I do that? Well, if you go into the RAD Studio and you go onto the tool palette, if you just type in FDE, because FireDAC is my preferred database method, it will narrow down the palette there, as you can see on the bottom, to show you just a thing called the FD alerter. Okay, and you can use the FD alerter to trigger an event in your code. Okay, and I'm going to show you the properties in a minute, but what happens is you say to the FD alerter, oh, I want you to be subscribed to that subscription called sub, and every time something changes on the tab, the table called tab, I want to know what it is, and the alerter will tell me whether it's an insert, an update, or a delete. It is supremely powerful. It's not just like getting a log events where the log says, hello, I'm a log, something changed, and here's a whole bunch of information that got changed. Also, the alerts, the subscriptions are intelligent. If you subscribe to a log table on something like SQL Server or MySQL, you will get all the events, including your own. So if you make a change to a database yourself, you will get back a notification that you changed something, and you have to filter out all the things that you did to find the things that other people did, and that's actually quite an onerous task if you think about it, trying to do the comparisons between what existed, what doesn't exist, and what has changed. FireDAC doesn't, Interbase doesn't do that. Interbase will say, "Oh, I know you already know this, so I'm not going to tell you that you just inserted a record. What's the point? You don't need to know that. You did it, right?" And it's the same with you. Oh, you updated something. Again, it knows it's you and it doesn't care. It's extremely powerful and very, very succinct way of working. And here it is in action. So I've created the subscription in my SQL script. So I do that once. My DBA or whoever, my database admin can do it if that's the way you set things up. Or I can do it when I create the database itself and create these subscriptions. And then in your app, you can subscribe using the event alerter to a specific subscription. So you could have hundreds of these. You could have one called human resources change of email address, for example, and you could create a subscription that only told you about a specific email address field that was changing in a particular table. And you could say, well, I only care if it's updated or inserted. I don't care if it's deleted because I'm going to keep a log of this, but I do want to know when someone creates a new email address or updates it. The same could be true of employee records or orders. You might want to know only that a new order has been created, and you go bing, and you turn a light out in your warehouse or something like that to say that there's a new order being created. It could be anything. The sky's the limit. You think through a scenario, I bet you can find a way of it working. So in the FD event alerter component, there's this thing called subscription name, and as you can see with the arrow, it has to match what the subscription is created in the database. You just set it to the name of the subscription. That's it, and then you'll receive events in your app. So that sounds great in practice, but let's have a look at what that actually looks like in code. So there is a demo, and I'll put a link up to it later, that is available on the web. And this is that demo. Now, as always with the company demos, I've tweaked it a bit to make it more beautiful because, you know, I like things that look pretty and I like user interface design and all the rest of it. So all I've really done to this demo is just move a few things around so you can see them more easily and improve the font size so that when I'm streaming, it's more obvious. Okay. And I'm just going to have a quick look at the questions, make sure we haven't missed any. Yeah, no, we're doing good. So this is a RAD Studio 12 app. This is 12.2. And what we've got in here is I have a database. Let me just see if I can pull it up over here. And so I have a database called sub. And then in here, I've got a whole bunch of tables. And the actual one table is called tab. And it's created using this script. So I'm going to pull this over. So this is Ultra Edit, which, by the way, is an Idea company. But if you want to do anything with SQL files, it is a beast. I can have a SQL file here, a SQL script that is hundreds and hundreds of lines long, maybe thousands of lines long. And when I go to search for something like, let's go to the top and say, see how it just goes straight away. It's fantastic, and I can say, oh, I'll go to the next one. It's instant jumping. Well, you think that's not a problem, right? Because there's only 60 lines in this particular file, but I've got SQL scripts that have got 50,000 lines, and it's still instantaneous jumping. So it's very, very cool. So what this does is it creates a database. That is a demo username and key, which I haven't used in my own version, just in case you want to try and connect to my stuff and kill me. And so it creates that key, does a trigger and a few other things as well to make sure that there's a generator um, created. And then I create a subscription. I haven't actually got this data running in here, but creates a subscription called sub on the table called tab. So there's a table up here called tab, and all it contains is that number and then a value which we're going to use for the name. Okay, but create a subscription as easy as that. So that single line there is all I need to do from now on is subscribe to sub, and it will tell me every row that gets changed. So should we just see that running then to see what that looks like? So I'm going to run the app here and put it over. Whoops. Good old Windows trying to resize it. So click on the button and it opens it. And as you can see at the moment, what this is doing is it's actually subscribed to a change view on itself. That would make sense. Normally you want to do that across a network, okay? But because of the setup here, the change view is showing the server data. The original data is what came down here. So let me go to Mike Smith, okay? And let me change his name to be Mike Smythe. As soon as I move away from that field, it's going to post the change locally, okay? And now it knows that that change has been made. Now I've color coded these. So red is a new record. Orange is a changed record. And I think green, I might have done it a different way, but let me just add another record. So we'll call this Mr. Webinar. Oops, I'll spell webinar properly because, you know, and as soon as I move away from it, it will create another record. Now, unfortunately, because of my stupid resizing of things, you can't see it very well, but there you go, Mr. Webinar. So that one's changed, and I've colored the row orange, amber actually, to say that it's changed. Mr. Webinar is green, and if I delete John Smith, sorry, John, not sure how to do that on this demo app, but let's, yeah, there you go, Control Delete. And now if I go down to the change, it should show deleted thing. Oh, it's because of the way this is working. Anyway, if I now say merge data, what will happen is these are the record of local changes that I've made. Okay, there's John Smith deleted. There's Mike Smith changed. So John Smith is grey because I've killed his record, a bit like disabled. Mike Smith is amber because I've changed him. And Mr. Webinar is green because he's new. So you can see locally, when I look at the data, no John Smith. But this is effectively like the cache or what needs to go up to the main server before it's changed. Now, that's actually posted this to the server. But what this here is this is simulating, shall we say, another computer user. So imagine there's a clone of Ian somewhere, and I'm using a different computer. Right now, I'm going to say, okay, give me the data, and down comes the changed information. Okay, and you can see that, remember I got rid of John Smith? No John Smith. Okay, now if we go back and I change Mr. Webinar 2 like this, you can now see that Mr. Webinar 2 is updated. And at this moment in time, my local data here is not updated, but when I pull it back down again, it shows the change. Now, I'm doing a very poor job of explaining this demo, and the easiest thing for you to do is, and I'm going to pull it up because I've got it here, is for you to go to the demo yourself and try it for yourself. So it is, and I'll put this link up as a QR code in a moment, but go to our GitHub page, Rad Studio 12 demos, or if you've got them locally, you can load them locally, okay? And you'll get the source code and everything down from here. So I'm going to just copy that because I'm going to create you know, I love the QR codes. I'm going to create you a QR code so you can scan this and take a look yourself. You are, yeah. So if you scan that QR code that you see there, you'll go to the demo. Save you typing in. I'll put it in as a comment later on as on the screen. So that's it. Now, it's not a very impressive demo because if I was going to spend more time on it, I would have had, you know, another PC because I got PCs surrounding me all over the place, and I could even have, you know, a Chromebook updating this via a web page or something like that with JavaScript because, as you know, there's a driver that does all that. But you can get the general idea of what happens. It's very, very quick and very, very efficient. So let's go back, and my colleagues are messaging me about stuff. Da, 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 da. Yeah, that wasn't something I needed to do. So let's say go and do our demo slides again. Let's go back to here. So just to recap then, other facts about Interbase. The Interbase Express controls are included in most versions of RAD Studio, and they will allow you to connect to any Interbase database, local or server. The Enterprise and Architect versions can connect to any type of Interbase database and server on a network, so a network or enterprise level database. But if you are using the Community Edition or the Pro Edition, I think, then you can only connect locally. You can't connect to a remote server. Google it, look it up, go to our webpage, and you'll see what it is. It also includes an IB events control, which works just like the other one that I showed you, the FireDAC events control, exactly the same thing. So what you will have is a control like this, and if I just go down to where is the events thing, there is the subscription name, and I am subscribed to that subscription. Then what happens is when something changes in the app, the I receive an event to say that something has changed, and it will say what that change is, whether it's deleted, it's unmodified, so nothing's changed, modified, inserted, deleted. You can literally look for any event that you can possibly imagine. And like I say, Interbase Express works as well. Personally, I prefer FireDAC. Interbase Express has got some advantage, but FireDAC is way more powerful. And also, you've got things like MySQL and all the other databases. Whereas Interbase Express is specifically designed for you know, just Interbase. Right. So another thing that you need to know about as well, and this is actually significant if you are using Advantage Database Server. It's a very, very popular database, or it was. And unfortunately, what happened was it got bought out. The people who you wrote Advantage sold up to a number of companies. I think they went to Sybase, and then now it's part of Salesforce, the very big burgeoning company in the United States. And part of what they've done, unfortunately, is they've deprecated Advantage Database. It is no more, and it's going to go away if it hasn't already. You may well find that it's not listed anywhere on any of their pages. And I know it's very popular with Delphi and C++ Builder customers, and it's a big problem. The good news is that there is a company called Full Convert, that's a product, they have a tool that's actually very reasonably priced, that will convert your Advantage databases to Interbase like that, like in a snap. So if you are using Advantage database, then go to Full Convert. Full Convert does a lot of other things as well, not just the Interbase version as well. But it's a bit of a sad thing. I mean, I always hate it when I see these companies that they sell their product and then the product just goes kaput, which is a shame. Really, it's happened to a few different things, and sometimes people change. I understand. We had a similar thing with C Data, who decided to change direction and now only do ODBC drivers instead of the Delphi specific ones. But there you go. Anyway, that's that presentation really, and I just wanted to take you through some of the cool things about Interbase, and I think really the specific one that's very very cool is the change views that I was talking about. So let me see what we've got in the chat. There's a lot of things happen in the chat. Which rover is this? Doug, I think it is something to the European Space Agency. I'm not sure. Go to our website. They explain more about it. It's a fact that there's verifiable information there. So go along and have a look. Let me put that change demo up again. That's where you can get the demo. What else we got on the chat? Let's have a look. Thank you for the link, Stephen Ball. Oh, Stephen's watching, is he? Stephen is the product manager, I think. Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong. He does a lot of things. He's pre-sales, but he works very closely with Interbase as well. So he says there's some great videos on these features. So there you go. embarcadero.com/products Interbase labs. The more, and this won't be the last webinar we do on Interbase. I try not to do too much at once for Interbase explanations, because like any of these things, there's a lot going on, and it's not now. I was, he says, but the thing about Interbase is it's one of these products where the more you scratch the surface, the more you find a whole ton of things go on. Oh, and Stephen Ball has just told me that he was one of the co-inventors of Change Views. No wonder he wants to talk to me about it before I start talking about it. I knew there was something going on, but he's a co-inventor, so that's great. Good job, Stephen. I get on very well with Stephen. If you've not seen him before, you've had your eyes closed, but he's another one of the British voices of Embarcadero. We're gradually taking over. I don't know if you noticed that. There's a lot from even Antonio Zapata, who is Spanish, obviously origin, actually lives in the UK. So I don't, but I'm British. What else we got? Can we use Interbase with other SGBD like SQLite, and can you? I think what you mean is, can you use Interbase with other databases like SQLite and MySQL in the same app? Yes, you can. This comes up quite a lot. People say, can I connect to two databases at the same time? So the answer, I think that's what you're trying to say, is can you have like Interbase storing one set of data in one place and say a MySQL connection to get something else, and then maybe cache your data from MySQL into Interbase, or the other way around, or have, I don't know, personal stuff in Interbase where it's all nice and secure, and then stuff you don't care about in MySQL or something like that? The answer is yes. You can do two things. You can have two connections. And you saw that in the demo app there, where there were actually two connections simulating a local connection and a remote connection. Or you can have two DB modules. If you can, use a DB module because it makes life easier. And then you can, let's say you give people the choice of what database they want to use. So you might say, hey, do you want to use Interbase brackets recommended, or do you want to use SQL Server brackets preferred? Or you want to use MySQL, you can do that. And then you have three database modules and use inheritance. And then in your code, you can say, okay, I'll set my database module based on what their choice is. So if they choose Interbase, you use the Interbase database module. If you use SQL Server, then they use the other one, and so on and so forth. I've done this. You can easily set it up. The clever way to do it is use interfaces, T interface, and virtual methods and stuff like that, but it's up to you how you implement it. But can you use more than one type of database, and yes, you could use all of them if you really wanted to. If you really wanted to create the app that killed the world, then you could go and use MySQL, uh, uh, Paradox. Well, probably not Paradox, but um, SQL Server and Interbase and something else, SQLite, all at the same time in your system. And in fact, if you want to see an example of a Delphi app that does that, go to HeidiSQL.org. Heidi SQL, Heidi like the little German milkmaid, because that is an app written entirely in Delphi. It's one of the world's most popular database management apps, and that connects to almost any database you can imagine and can do it simultaneously and dynamically. So it's a very interesting thing. The 5 things I did last week. Yes, is that your log file? Is it? Yeah. And so you got a little bit of paper like this. That's your 5 things you did last week. Yeah, it's a good job. I don't think you need a database for that. Interface, yeah, we got that. Interbase, yes. Poor old Einstein is having a moment there. Right, Rick is listing the things that he did, I think, or something like that. I don't know. Paul says this subscription approach is a very nice way to do things. Yes, it is. And just to re-emphasize why we care about this, I obviously, I am. I always make sure that when I'm working, I'm just going to let my dog out because she's getting crazy about something here. Off we go. I always we don't have sponsorship on our videos, and the reason is that obviously it's the Embarcadero channel, therefore it's our official channel, so you expect us to talk about our products. And I am obviously an employee, which is why I have my shirt on, and I always wear my shirt so that you know that what I'm saying is not unbiased. I'm going to talk about our products, but that does not mean that I will talk about things I think are horrible. And I genuinely believe, I joined the company in 2023, but I have been a lifetime Delphi user since Delphi 1 came out, and I'm a very big fan of Delphi. I am a developer. I get up every day and I write code. Literally, you saw me make changes to the demo app to make it a little bit more webinar friendly. But I genuinely believe that our products give you significant advantage in some ways, and I think Delphi is one of the easiest languages to learn. I think if you use any other programming language, you're doing it the hard way. And particularly with mobile apps, that single source code thing where we say you can write the code once and then compile it for iOS and Android on mobile. That is a fact. I've done it myself, and there are plenty of people out there that do the same thing. So these are the definite advantages. But when it comes to Interbase, for the longest time, I hadn't really looked into what it could do. And I tell you now, the reason I featured it a couple of times in these webinars is the more you look at it, the more you think, wow, actually, that's pretty good. There are free versions and there's some paid versions, and when you start having a more commercial need for Interbase, then you will have to pay some money for it. But it's comparable to what you pay. It's a lot cheaper than SQL Server, for example, and MySQL community is not the same. But if you're looking at Oracle and things like that, then how much do you want to pay for being compliant? For security, for example, in Europe, it's a very big deal. This encryption, data encryption at rest. If you get sued just once, you could be looking at tens of thousands of euros in fines. I know because I used to be a data compliance officer, and I can tell you they do come around and look for it. What we got here? Giuseppe says hi, Ian. Hello, Giuseppe. And Stephen Ball, who is still hanging around, says, I wrote a series of blogs on change views. You can read them here. There you go. Delphi iAble. That's Stephen's website, delphiable.com. and then go to the URL he's got there. And while we're at it, I'm going to put some QR codes up as well. So the other product I mentioned during this, if you are using Advantage database, I don't want to scare you, but they've removed it. I mean, it's going away. If it's not already gone, you'll find that you are going to struggle to find drivers and things like that, and versions that work. It's just that's the nature of software development. But if you want to convert from almost any other database, actually, but particularly from Advantage to Interbase, scan this QR code and go there because it's a very cost-effective way of doing it, and you can then have all the power of Interbase and say, "Sayonara, Advantage database. Thank you for being our friend, but now you is dead." It happens. Does Interbase have a replication mechanism that uses change views? Yeah, SAP, where software goes to die. Oh, that's a bit cruel, says someone. But I'm not going to say who said that. But yeah, well, different companies have different priorities about what products they want to keep. And Embarcadero have done it in the past years ago, and we try not to do it now. But sometimes it's pressure, outside pressure. For example, the C++ builder mobile issue at the moment was completely down to the scale of the task to continue maintaining it and also move forward on the CLAN compiler. But we try not to, backward compatibility for our code is very important. You can take a Delphi 5 or Delphi 6 or 7 or whatever old version of Delphi, open it up in Rad Studio 12 today, and almost with zero changes it will work. And there's virtually no other programming language out there, no other IDE that you can do that with. It's almost none. And that, I think, for me as a developer, is something I can get behind. And I don't want to be selling or explaining or marketing something I don't believe in. And if I don't believe in something, I just won't talk about it. I can get away with it because I'm reasonably lucky in the company that people don't tend to tell me what to do. But I believe in some of the things, and Interbase is one of them. I like I say, for the longest time, I wasn't really paying attention. But once I got into it, I'm like, this is actually that's pretty cool. It does quite a lot of good things, especially the mobile stuff with IB2Go and IB Lite. Go and have a look. It's incredible. Stephen says replication. I knew if I talked long enough, you'd answer the question. It's really for you to define and build based on your needs. However, change views have a lot of replication-friendly capabilities, far easier than using DB triggers. I've seen replication solutions for Interbase. I know it can be done. Off the top of my head. Stephen also says, as an example, the subscription approach means we know who made the change. So when you ask for a list of what was changed, you don't get sent the changes you made. Yeah, as I pointed out, that's one of the cool things is you don't get an echo back of your own. Like if you go somewhere, you're talking on a cell phone and you can hear your own voice. It's very confusing. Well, it's just the same as that. Giuseppe says we're in south of Italy. Quite a spring today. SQLite, the hell, database is locked. So what Avidius is saying there is that this is a problem with SQLite, that the database can get locked because you're looking at the same database at the same time with two different versions of the app, or the same app has reopened it twice and things as well. So what else have we got? Is Interbase royalty free? Yeah, yes and no. So I'll let Stephen answer that in the chat, but there are, I think the best idea is to go there and talk to someone that talks about licensing, because it depends on your scenario. If you're doing a mobile app, then there are subscriptions and things like that that pay for you to distribute that stuff. If you've got a VAR license, I think it is, then it's kind of like an all-you-can-eat scenario as well, and salespeople will be very happy to explain all that to you. I am not a salesperson. My job is to explain the products, not sell them. And The salespeople are going to have all the facts at their fingertips. The same with the licensing people. If you've got a question about licensing, don't rely on me because I have no idea. I don't do it, so I don't really know. But they will definitely explain the benefits of various subscriptions and things like that. For IB2Go and IB Lite, you don't. I think in most cases it's just embed and off you go. You get Interbase developer included with RAD Studio, and then I think Enterprise includes one deployment license, and then the Architect includes like site-wide or something like that. I again check the details. I didn't really write it down. How do you use IB2Go with mobile apps? Charles, look at the other webinar that I did, which I mentioned earlier on. Let me see if I've got it up here. Go to our blog site, which is blogs.embarcadero.com, and go through it, and you'll see my last webinar about Interbase, which was to do with mobile apps. It tells you all about how to embed IB2Go and IB Lite. It's very, very easy, not difficult at all. Once you've set it up once, it's very easy to do. So that answers that question, I think. Francesco says, great webinar, thank you. And greetings from Bad Salzuflen in Germany. Good. Hi, and I'm going to Germany in September, I think. Maybe I am, and maybe Marco is. I'm not sure. We're still sorting out the details, but one of us will be going to Germany. And Ken says, much respect for Stephen Ball and his blog text. Yeah. He's well respected in the company, even though he's a nightmare. Yeah, he knows his stuff. He's the pre-sales director, and his job is to advise people technically on things like that. So he knows what he's talking about. Stephen replies saying, Malcolm China, IB Lite is free to use. There you go. Interbase to Go is a subscription that allows unlimited deployment. So no royalties is the answer. And unlimited deployment. So you put it on 50,000 phones if your app is successful. That's good. The VIR program, which I talked about, has got special pricing to embed it into your app. And I think it's like a year or something like that. You just get all you can eat in. I've heard this explained to me before, but look, I don't go into the details because we change things. This webinar, someone might be watching this webinar in 2 years' time, and where we may have got a new offer or changed the way that we're doing things. But right now, these are the offerings that we've got. So it's great stuff. Malcolm says, "Thank you. The stream is freeze. Sorry, it's not." Frozen for everybody else, because believe me, everyone tells me. Does Interbase suffer the same issues as MySQL with required DLLs in specific locations? No, absolutely it doesn't. With the embedded versions, there's nothing to worry about. It puts the required libraries in the right place or embeds them into the app, and so you don't need to worry about that. This is the problem with MySQL, and in fact, MSQL, Microsoft SQL Server, is that like lots of .NET technologies, I understand the principles about why they do what they do with the versioning of DLLs and things like that. But back in the day when Delphi first came out, one of the reasons I liked it was it solved a common problem that even then they had, which was DLL hell. And that was the name for it. And I apologize if you get offended by the word hell, but it's perfectly rational English word. And DLL hell is where you've got one version of a DLL there and a completely different version there, and it picks up the wrong version, your program crashes. And Microsoft have been very they've done various things to try and resolve that. They have side-by-side installations of versions and things like that, but it's still extremely common to see a .NET app that just goes and dies. And in fact, deployment of .NET apps, if you have one click and things like that, is fairly good, but it still can be a nightmare. And not so with Delphi programs. Now, I know you would expect me to say that because I work for Embarcadero, but it's a fact. It's one of our strengths is you can just copy it and it works. You don't have to usually install much at all. It does it for you. Are there any good tutorials available for using interfaces and inheritance? Yes, Jeff, just Google it. There's a load. Go to our YouTube channel and Google interface, and you'll find a whole bunch of them, but I'll try and come up with some. After we finish the 30 for 30 webinars, and I take a bit of a break because I'm going to Denmark and doing a load there as well, and I'm going to forget where else I'm going, but Amsterdam. Oh yeah, I should mention that, shouldn't I? Amsterdam and a few other places. Amsterdam Delphi Summit. Come on, if you want to meet people or developers and ask these questions, come and meet me in Amsterdam in June this year and ask me questions to my face. Let's hang out. They've got great food there, and it's held. The Delphi Summit is in a video games arena. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. But hang out with me. I'll be there all the time. I'll be on the exhibition floor, as well as doing at least one session, maybe two. I think I'm doing a panel as well, so maybe doing 2 sessions in a panel. I'm not sure yet, but hang out and ask me these questions. Where can I find this and what's this? And if I know the answer, I'll tell you. I'm quite straightforward. If I know the answer, I'll tell you, and if I don't know the answer, then I'll let you know. Stephen has quite nicely sent me a link because he's hanging out in the chat. Here's a link for it. Object Pascal Handbook. Yes. Okay. If you go to embarcadero.com, click on Products, Delphi, and then Object Pascal Handbook, which is written by Marco Cantu. Everybody's saying nice things about Stephen. Stop it. We don't. He'll be insufferable if you keep saying nice things about him. Then it will just be horrible. I just will have to just put him on mute or something whenever I talk to him. Yeah. Interbase needs to provide a more useful use guide. Actually, we've got user guides, and in fact, I've got one on here somewhere. What happened to it? I had it all prepared. Yeah, there is a white paper on change views, I think. Yeah, I mean, there are manuals about it, about Interbase and all the other things as well. So, notice something. I seem to be hearing twice on some of these webinar things here. Yes, we've got some manuals for it, but I'm also suffering from DLL when using SQLite. Really? That's interesting, because if you are, Peter, and I know you are, there's a little, if you're using Rad Studio, there's a little box that says embedded. And if you click on that, it'll embed the driver in, statically link it. So you won't have to worry about DLL help because it's built in. So I know it can be a nightmare, but you can definitely do that in Rad Studio. You can embed SQLite. I actually wasn't aware of that myself until about 12 months ago. Once I Oh dear, Jeff, email me, and I'll try and find you something about interfaces and point you to the manuals and things like that as well. In the blog post that follows this up, we will have some links as well that make it useful. And Paul says a 30-year celebration suggestion for you in wear that Delphi helmet and sing a Delphi song that you create and play along with your musical instrument. Yeah, that's not going to happen. We do have a video that was created by Olaf Moyen, one of our MVPs. I am not sure if I still got it loaded. If I do, no, they deleted it. But he created an AI video of a rock band doing. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on one second, because no, it's been deleted. Oh, that's a shame. I'll upload it for another webinar. But it's an AI created guy wearing a Delphi helmet singing a rock song about Delphi. And la, 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 la. It's much better than I could ever do. I can play the ukulele, and I've got some other musical instruments there. You can't see it, but there's the bongos. I can play them. They're not difficult. And I've got like one of these metal, I forget what you call them, singing drums and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not really my thing. But no, I'm not doing not singing in that thing. Does Embarcadero have good speakers? In what way? Music or people that speak? Explain. I don't quite understand your question, Peter. Does Embarcadero have good speakers? I understand. I don't understand what that question means. You mean music speakers or something like that? Okay. Anyway, so Nick Hodges has a great section about interfaces in his 2 books. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about that for a second because I've probably got it up here, which I don't have, and that is the Delphi Books website. Delphi books.org, I think it is. Just see. Oh, delphibooks.com, actually. There it is. So if you go to delphibooks. Like this, if you go here, Nick Hodges' books are listed there. It's the easiest way I know of getting to any of the books. So if you go to that website, you'll see Nick Hodges. I think you can filter it by author. Yeah, I'm sure you can, and look at Nick Hodges' book. He's got a load of books. I think it's 3 or 4 at least, and his books are very well respected. But he does a lot of things about interfaces. Nick Hodges is the king of interfaces. Where he was a development manager at one point, and his argument was that whenever you write code, use code to an interface rather than a solid object, which I absolutely understand as well. So I hear where he's come from. I don't think I'm quite as strict about that as Nick Hodges, but yeah, it's interesting. Daniel says, I learned interface and got certified. Like, you mean in Delphi, not certified, after talking to Nick for a job interview. Yeah, it was humbling, but it made me a better developer. Yeah, Nick is one of those guys that will ask some penetrating questions and then make you feel like you spent an entire career where you know absolutely nothing about anything. But it is what it is. He's a smart guy. Okay, so I think that's it. I'm going to call it a day because I do have many other things to do. Join us on Friday, and on Friday we're looking at a product called Mormot, which is object relational database mapping, and it's everything. And it's primarily a Free Pascal project, but it is also a Delphi project. And Arnaud Boucher is the author, and he's an MVP now. And this is where our worlds collide. That Object Pascal is the language, and there's a couple of different dialects. Delphi is probably, I'd say, it's the prominent dialect that's possible at the moment in the market, but there's a lot of crossover, and I really like Arnaud Boucher, and Mormot is extremely well respected. Don't forget, we'll be an hour earlier if you're in Europe and the UK, because our clocks went forward in the USA. So for 3 weeks, we'll be earlier. On Thursday, we have a What's Coming in 12.3 webinar. If you haven't signed up for it, you really should. Very interesting. We're going to show you some cool things happening in the ID. And a week on Saturday, so not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, will be This Guy and My. And that will publicize this separately. There's a lot of emails coming out from us at the moment, but Boy and Mitov of Microsoft software. Anything you want to plug into devices and things like that. Um, you know, Boyan's your guy. He writes a product called Visuino. It's written in Delphi, and he's a very, very smart, intelligent developer. I get on very well with Boyan. We're good friends, and I'm going to hang out with him on Saturday, not this Saturday, but on Saturday, and then we can do a joint webinar. Stephen's talking about interfaces. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. You can see it in the chat. And thanks, Ian. See you on Friday. Very interesting ORM. Yeah, there's quite a few ORM solutions out there for Delphi. And Mormont is just one of them, but there's Mars, Curiosity, and a few other things as well. But Mormont is very, very well respected. It's got massive amount of downloads and things like that. And I hope to do justice on the webinar. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for the interesting session. Thank you, David. And Ian and Stephen and the rest, thank you so much. Enjoyed. Gotta bail and go to work. Yeah, no problem. And hey, you don't need to thank me. I just talk about nonsense. I always say this. All the stuff you see is someone else's hard work. I just talk about it and do slides. So, you know, people like Stephen Ball, co-inventor of Change Views. So if you like the idea of Change Views, award-winning Internet of IOTA Awards, I think that's how you pronounce it, and patents, you know, software patents. So it's protected, the idea behind it. Stephen came up with that. He's one of the co-inventors. Oh my, everybody's saying that. You don't need to say thank you to me, it's just me. But thank you. I'm glad you like it. And Rick says, another good one. Thanks. We need more about low code, no code. Yes, all these webinars up to date so far, I've tried not to show too much code because a lot of the functionality of Delphi, you don't need to write code. And most of them apply to C++ and Delphi. And it's very difficult to show code where you're only showing Delphi, and yet there's a bunch of C++ people who want to understand it as well. But the languages are similar but different enough. But we are going to do webinars. We're going to do one a week after this series ends, where it's going to be coding, live coding, and going into a lot more depth, like things like the basics of the language, but also things like interfaces, generics, all those things where you think, I've always wondered why I would use generics. Why do I need to use those? Interfaces, why would I need to use those? Maybe I'll get Nick Hodges to join in and he can shout at you and tell you, oh, you must use interfaces for the wrong reason, because he gets very passionate about it, as some of you found out. Hat says, thank you. Yes, you're welcome. And I'm not even going to attempt to say it. I remember you've translated it before, but hello, and it's from Thessaloniki in Greece. Beautiful area, fantastic. And I like the high code. Yeah, you know what? Boyan and I were talking about this the other day when we were discussing the webinar. And Boyan is such a hardcore coder that all he wants are webinars that are just nothing but code. And Jim McKeith, my predecessor, did a lot of in-depth code. We have a lot of webinars out there that focus very, very much on code, which is great. But unfortunately, code tends to appeal to either people that are already using the product or have used it for years and years and years and want to learn something complicated or new. And that's great, except I want people to know the greater benefits of the product outside of the community of Delphi. Otherwise, we'll all be sitting here like an echo chamber and talking about, oh, let's do some cool stuff with coding. Yeah, we are going to do that, but and I am going to do the high code, but you know, this 30 for 30 is a little bit more laid back and a bit more friendly. And I wanted the 30 for 30 webinars to be more like a radio show or community event, where it's relaxed and we're not too formulaic. I don't want it to be like a school system or something like that. You'll learn stuff, and if you scroll back on the replay, you can jump to the bits where I'm talking nonsense and get to the meat of it. And I publish the slides as well. But I wanted it to be more inclusive, and I think that we're doing that. Daniel says it would be a very long session with Nick about interfaces. Oh boy. Well, it depends. He might just like clap the camera off if one of you says something stupid like, "Oh no, I don't ever want to use interfaces." That would be just his head would explode. He's like, "No, no, no." I mean, he does say, what was it? He was 3-0 in the 3-0 debate, which I put back on the website recently. He's like, yeah, I'm not saying you should never use 3-0. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you should write your code so you don't need to use 3-0. And it was a big debate about that. Boyne says, "Oh, internet." Yes, I absolutely agree. Once you get beyond the basics, and you surely should use generics. Yes, exactly as well. Definitely. Okay, all right. And hello from the Netherlands. Yeah. Hi there. I'll be over there in June. And they've got a lot of good speakers, better than me. Don't worry. I know Peter Panino is not always a fan. It's okay. I understand. I get it. Circumstances made that happen. All right. Thanks very much, and I'll see you on Friday where we talk about Mormont. Don't forget, an hour earlier in Europe and the UK, and same time as ever in the United States. But I'm going for now. See you soon. Bye-bye.